Hello, Modern Singer. My name is Noelle. I write for Modern Singer magazine, and today we are here with Caroline Hewitt, who is a professional opera singer and also the mastermind behind the Music and Weights podcast. So we are here to learn from her today, not only about her entrepreneurship venture, but also a little bit of insight into what we can do as artists to take care of our bodies. So first of all, tell me a little bit about the podcast and how it just came to be. How did you come up with this idea?
Sure. So I'm married to a singer. I'm married to a singer and a weightlifter. And so we have a lot in common. We met in graduate school. And I think we both just sort of found ourselves having a certain type of deeper conversation about health and wellness among our friends. We share a pretty big pool of singer friends, as you probably know, because you're married to a singer as well. So you just know that the amount of people that you know between the two of you, especially in the music world, is just doubled. And we found ourselves having certain conversations over and over again. And we were asking them questions that we kind of wish we had known earlier in our career, and questions that we wanted answered for this point in our career. And we thought that they were kind of interesting. So we thought that it was that the podcast platform would be a good way of distributing that information, just because we both consume podcasts pretty frequently, and it's super accessible, it's free, everyone can get them on every phone, whatever phone you have. So yeah, that's kind of how it was born. And because we both share very similar interests about wellness and about singing, the podcast took a bent towards singers, actors, performers, conductors, teachers who have had significant wellness journeys, whether that's weight loss or that might be a mental health journey, just is completely individual. We thought that those were among our more interesting conversations, because we are also on that journey ourselves. So yeah, that's kind of how it was born.
So when you're starting your own podcast, what are the steps that you have to take just to start that? Is that something as simple as just getting the equipment and finding guests and promoting it?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. We have done almost next to nothing in terms of promoting it. I think we both put it on our Instagram, and I think that's more or less it. But we have a mic, and Michael edits it and made the music and all that. It's really, really simple. So I think the application process for a podcast to become official on Apple Podcasts is like a 4-day waiting period, and then it's up. Okay. And all you have to have is artwork and a suitable intro and all that stuff. Yeah. So it's been really easy. We turn around our podcast within a day. So
that's great.
Yeah.
So how do you go about booking guests for the podcast? I notice you have such a wide range of people, like, Metropolitan Opera singers who, are so excited to come on and talk about their health and fitness journey. Yeah. How did you go about reaching out to them?
We know, so everyone that we've had on the podcast so far, we know personally. So Michael's worked with both Leah and Lucas. And then we have some upcoming guests that we've either known from graduate school or undergrad or YAP programs along the way or stuff like that. So yeah, as of right now, we're booking our friends, which is, we are very lucky and grateful to have friends that have a little bit wider range than we do, a little bit wider of a reach than we do. They also happen to be really great people and really smart and have important things to say. So so for that, we're pretty grateful.
What do you think are your long-term goals for this project? Is the goal for this to ultimately create a revenue stream and get up to that level of discussion about how this affects our industry and our mental health as singers?
I think, the conversations that we've had so far, we've talked a little bit about that. Yeah, personally, I think it would be great to turn a profit on it. I think that, of course, if you're getting paid to do something that's fun and you're doing anyway, great, more power to us. And I think that would be awesome. Yeah, I think it's an important conversation to have about how wellness plays a part in our what part does wellness play in our lives as singers? And I think that the more for lack of a better word, more famous singers that you have and more famous people that have dealt with that or have gone through that you can have on the podcast, the better, because everyone's journey is different and everyone's going to have a different. I don't think that there is, personally, I don't think that there is a good or bad. It could be either good or bad. Someone's journey with health and wellness can be a negative thing or it can be a positive thing. And the more information you have, I just think the more informed a young singer could be, because we're all individuals, and just because someone's story is their story doesn't mean it's going to be your story. So I guess the goal is really for the conversation to be more accessible, and the goal is for more information to be easily accessible for young singers, I guess, because in academia you are just surrounded by your teachers and conductors, most of whom have been at the school for a long time. If they're tenured, they've been at the school for a long time, and in some cases they are less familiar with the industry than a 35-year-old singer that sings at the Met is. And it doesn't make them a worse teacher. It doesn't make them unvaluable. I mean, obviously we have our teachers for our reasons, but that conversation is not as accessible to a young singer. And I think that there's quite a bit, and you probably can attest to this, there's just so much learning to be done from peer to peer about what works in terms of your technique, what works in terms of the way that you act and whatever, that the more accessible it is and the more questions we can answer for a young singer, I think it can only be more valuable. It's like the books, great singers on great singing, or great teachers on great teaching, or great teachers on great singing, rather. It's just the more information you can bring directly to the audience, I think the better.
I think this is a really accessible thing, both for people to listen to and to kind of just dip your toes into starting a passion project. So are there any kind of sticky wickets financially that you're anticipating coming up in the near future?
Yeah, so this is such a low budget thing for us. It costs us nothing to produce, that we haven't really found the need to fundraise yet. I think so far, as like I said, the people that we've had on have been our friends, and they're just doing it as a favor and gesture of goodwill for us. So we haven't, we take them out to lunch or we grab them a coffee, but we're not compensating them in any way. We hope that it gives them a platform to talk about what they want to talk about as well. Not that is the equivalent of money. Exposure is not money, but it's at this point, it's really all we can offer them, and we're lucky to have them as friends, and that it doesn't cost it. As far as we know, it hasn't been a massive inconvenience for them. But in terms of fundraising for the future, again, it's because the budget for us is so low and the cost of it is so low, I don't really anticipate needing any money. We'd like to give our guests some gifts moving forward and going forward, but at the moment, we're just not in a position to be doing that.
Some people I've talked to previously, and, with my own experience, is that just doing anything artistic and nonprofit, there's just so much competition. And I think it's so smart to be doing something like a podcast to really be able to get your message out there and have that be a low risk, high reward situation.
Yeah,
is
exactly.
really ideal. How do you hope that this benefits the opera community other than, putting information out there?
So I think that in my experience as a singer who, I can only really talk from my own experience. And my experience as a singer has been, I've always been in pretty decent shape. Fitness has kind of been my priority. And my husband, I think, I can't speak for him, but I think that's been very similar. So the way that a teacher talks to someone who is in shape, I anticipate is slightly different than how they would talk to someone who wouldn't consider themselves in excellent shape, which is neither is good or bad. It's just the treatment is going to be a little bit different. I think fitness and wellness in the opera community is, for good or for bad, a taboo subject. So, for as many teachers as there are going to be that say you need to be X weight or you need to look X way, there's going to be a teacher that says, bigger voices come in bigger bodies, and there's no benefit to losing weight. Like, you should just, be who you are. And neither is good, neither is bad. I think that in general, and I can't speak for everyone, a personal journey towards bettering yourself without that being motivated by hate or self-loathing, any sort of journey towards growth is a positive thing in my experience. And from the people that I've talked to, generally it's a positive experience. So for example, if you're losing weight because you hate the way that you look, that's generally not going to get you the outcome that you want. But if you're losing weight because you're celebrating the way that your body can move, you're celebrating all the things that your body can do, and you're nourishing your body to accomplish what it needs to accomplish in rehearsal, sleep patterns, hormone balance, all of that, that generally yields a much more positive result. And I think that the less taboo we can make wellness and fitness, like I said, some guests that we have on have mental health journeys. Some people, like, that's just as valid of a personal journey as a fitness journey. So the less taboo that we can make these, and the more difficult conversations we can have, and the more accessible we can make difficult conversations to young singers, I think it's a positive. Like I said, like, it's just because one person's journey isn't or just because one person has a specific journey does not mean that it has to be yours. The more diverse of a journey that we can make accessible to young singers, we hope that someone can find a kindred spirit in one of the guests that we have, and maybe that'll inspire them or give them information that they didn't have before.
Well, even just simply starting that conversation, and feeling like someone is experiencing the same things that you are. And I'm sure a wide range of singers, myself included, yourself included, have gotten feedback, unsolicited or not, on their personal appearance and particularly their weight.
Yes.
And often I would say that feedback does lead to some of those kind of mental health struggles. And it's so important to not feel alone and to remember, that you have the support of everyone in this community, and ultimately how you feel and how you feel your best is the most important. And at a certain point, you just have to be like, thank you for your feedback.
I think that young singers are in a really unique position because of the way the app structure is structured, and undergrad, and for the most part graduate school, you are implicitly electing to receive unsolicited feedback. So you're getting it from your teacher, you're getting it from your coach, you're getting it from everyone. And I think that, like you said, I think that just can lead to some pretty negative self-talk, and it can lead to a lot of questions about who am I, and what do I want to be doing, what do I want to be singing, what rep do I want to be singing, what does my voice do well, what do my acting skills lend themselves to, and all of that ties into, we have a unique problem of being, or blessing of being our own instrument. I think it's just a very unique topic of conversation for singers in particular.
What advice would you give just in terms of, perhaps looking into a new journey for health and wellness? Where would you get started?
You can read basically anything that you want to read online. There's a bunch of information available online. I would start reading. I would start talking to people that and that you respect, who have had journeys that you admire. Whether or not you want to emulate it is a different thing, but talk to people that you admire and see what they have to say. In terms of health and wellness, it's such a personal thing. Like, veganism may not work for you, but the carnivore diet may work for you. All of these things are it's completely personal. You may not be into weightlifting, you may be more into running, or yoga or whatever, CrossFit, doesn't matter. I think that the answer is find what works for you and stick with it for a significant period of time. There's so much research to support so much that I feel like that really is the best answer. People have all different types of journeys, like veganism, and there's just so much information out there that I would do a lot of reading and find something that you can stick with, and that gives you some sort of daily structure. Because I think the thing that health and wellness can give a young singer in school is some sort of daily routine and daily structure. I think structure is just a very positive thing for for everyone. So if you find something that you can stick with and a diet that nourishes you in some way, whether that's mentally or physically and hormonally as a woman, is especially, I think that you're ahead of the curve.
How can our listeners find you? So what platforms is your podcast on currently?
So we're on iTunes and we're on Spotify. So you should be able to find it on basically any device.